Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Alundra. On the previous episode we picked up the 7th crest and unfortunately Nav passed away, but just like everybody else who died during this game, we'll be exacting our vengeance on their behalf as we take the fight to Melzas. Finally, we're about to head to the final dungeon, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead off camera. I picked up replacements for the healing items I used while I was fighting Zorkia, and so I guess I feel a little bit OCD about this because it's the first time in a long time that I haven't had max money, but of course we'll be able to fix that soon enough. Now I'm beginning this leg of the journey from Olin's house just to give you a signpost for how to get back to the area around the lake shrine where we're supposed to deposit the 7 crests. You may recall that we put 2 of them in their respective pedestals when we passed through this area a little bit earlier. Now I'm going to show you where the other 5 are supposed to go. The first 2, I actually kind of like this aspect of the game. I'm going to kill this mimic up here because, again, I really want to have max money again. It just bothers me not having 9999 all across when this is supposed to be basically a 100% complete walkthrough. It feels like 100% completion should include max money when it's so easy to get in this game. Anyway, if we go over here to the left and cross this bridge, we'll see 3 more of the pedestals, and really these 5 are the easy ones. It's a little bit unusual that this aspect of the game is a puzzle unto itself, but finding the other 2 is a little bit more difficult than you'd expect it to be. It is the final dungeon. This is one of the longest final dungeons that I've played in any game in recent memory. It's substantially longer than most of the other dungeons in the game by a large margin, which is great. It feels like we're building towards the climax, and so I guess it sort of makes sense that even mundane aspects like entering the dungeon, just depositing the 7 crests and getting inside are still quite involved. So we've put 5 of the crests down, and now we're going to have to head around through the mine area to get to where the 6th crest is. It's a little involved, and something that we can actually do a little bit earlier, because the crest that we have to place here is one that we've had for a little while now. I'll show these chests like I usually do, but again, as I said, I topped out on healing items a little while ago, so this isn't really necessary. This room, you have to kill all 5 of these slimes and ride this platform to the top. It rises a little bit every time you kill one of the enemies, so you can't just sit at the bottom and kill them all because you won't be able to get on the platform. You either want to use a bomb by kiting the enemies up close to where you are, standing on the platform, or you want to use magic. It's pretty easy. You just have to be mindful so that you don't have to reset. This chest contains 10 guilders, which is awesome, because now we're only 147 away from maxing out again. A little bit further down, in that little passageway, there's a wonder essence, but of course, as I said, I already bought one. Kind of the consequence of these items, like the wonder essences and the magic elixirs and the strength elixirs being generally too good to use, is that there's now chests all over the world map containing awesome healing items that I'm never going to need and never going to use again, just because I never use them in the standard gameplay and you can only carry 1. Anyway, now we're over here on the left side of the lake shrine, and we can deposit the 6th crest, and you can see on the right the island where we're supposed to stick the 7th crest. Here we can place the emerald crest, which is the one we got from beating Wilda, so we could have come back here after this. I do actually really like that you can place the crests whenever you want. It kind of makes you feel like makes you feel like you're making substantial progress as you go. It's like a solid marker of how far you've gotten. The 7th crest you can deposit just by walking off the bridge here to the left, and this river is surprisingly tricky to navigate. It has a strong current, and if you're not swimming constantly, you can actually get dragged down to the mouth like that. Just something to be mindful of. If you see me continually moving back to the status screens, because I didn't believe... I've actually thought my controller was disconnected for a while, but it turns out it's just really strange controls in that part of the river. So here we'll place the 7th crest, and once we do that, this is a good last one to do, because once you've placed all 7 of the crests, you're immediately teleported back to the Diamond Crest altar, where the bridge to the lake shrine will appear after this cutscene completes. And you'll see Alundra just comes straight up from the bottom of the screen there, so it's best to do either that crest or the Emerald Crest last, so that you don't have to backtrack all the way back to the central bridge. The game will take you there for you. So this bridge will raise. This cutscene, I believe, is supposed to have some audio, but apparently my emulator didn't play it correctly. This will be a problem also during the ending, so when I finally air that, I'm not going to record it in a video. I'll include an annotation to a better video that actually includes audio. But that's a problem for later. At this point, now that we've completed basically our knockdown, dragged out brawl with Melzas, we have 2/3 of the villagers are dead more or less, and all of his servants are dead. So there's nothing left to do but for us to take the fight face to face with him. And so I personally feel like it's really rewarding to finally have access to the Lake Shrine itself. Now, unfortunately, we don't get unique music yet, but I do really like the Lake Shrine music, so bear with me while we begin our assault on the outer ramparts of the Lake Shrine, on our attempt to actually get to the inside. So the first thing you're going to want to do is move here to the right and jump here into this little canal. There's a chest up there, but we won't be able to get that until actually quite a bit later. This dungeon is large, and you have to do a little bit of just about everything you've had to do in the entire rest of the game so far. The enemies are the most difficult enemies we've fought so far. These roper enemies here, I think they're called feelers officially, do a lot of damage. 4 points of damage per hit, and they take a lot of hits, even from really powerful weapons like the Holy Sword. Now, 4 points of damage doesn't seem like a lot when we have 49 health, but it does add up pretty quickly. Going upstairs, you have to hit a switch with the willow bow. I don't know how you actually... Oh, actually you can see it on the wall, so it's okay. You've got to kill these succubus enemies and these reapers. The reapers you would think would be difficult to kill like the succubus enemies, because, I mean, the succubus enemies we know are only vulnerable when they're actually solid, but the reaper enemies, even when they're invisible, can be really easily killed. They only take 1 hit each. Yeah, you can see we can't even reach that chest while we're on the rampart from the outside. We have to go inside the Lake Shrine area, inside the courtyard, and head to the right. It's a nice tip for people who remember that chest is there, sort of to know where to go once you've reached the second half of the dungeon. So yeah, we'll kill this guy. This actually, I believe, is the only trigger enemy for that column that we just lowered to get down to that staircase, but we don't need to go there yet. I believe there's a locked door that we need a key for first. So you'll notice here there are a bunch of red barriers, and the two objectives in this first part of the game, one is to open the door to the inner portion of the Lake Shrine, and the second objective is to open these red barriers, and there's some corresponding blue barriers that we haven't seen yet. So first we're going to have to find the switches that deactivate those barriers, and then later we're going to have to figure out how to get inside, figure out how to open the gates. And as it turns out, there's 2 chains we're going to have to lower in order to get the gate mechanism working. So now that we've picked up that key, we can head down to this door that we unlocked previously. It actually unlocks that door down below the stairs. But first I'm going to want to kill these enemies, which I believe opens another door. There are a couple of rooms in this dungeon where I kill all the enemies just because I've got a little bit of OCD about that, but it's not really a productive thing to do because it does drain your health pretty quickly, and they do respawn. I head up into this door, and in here there are 2 switches that we're going to want to hit that should open a door somewhere else in the dungeon. Now, remember, I'm following more or less the optimal path. If you were playing this dungeon for the first time, you just explore until you reached a puzzle that you could actually solve, and it actually usually is pretty obvious. You know, in this case, if it is possible to solve a puzzle on your first pass-through room, like this one right here, you'd more or less explore until you hit a door that you couldn't open, and solve whatever puzzles you came across, and so it makes the exploration of this dungeon feel a little bit haphazard, that I'm following what I consider to be the optimal path, in the sense that I'm going to open a lot of doors and then not go through them. You know, we noticed this when I opened up the pillar to go down the staircase, killing the gargoyle a little bit earlier, and didn't go down the staircase immediately. I went to get a key first. Here, we have deactivated the red barriers, and we can open up the chest containing an herb. I don't know why we need herbs. I might as well use them since I'm taking so much damage from fighting the roper enemies. But now that we've deactivated the red barriers, we can head back to that staircase that we saw earlier that allows us to go back upstairs again. Wow, that roper... Oh, he went behind the crates. Oh man, they're going to ambush me? What the heck? They're learning. It's creepy. So yeah, now that we've activated this other door, I believe this is actually what that switch did in the previous room that activated something that we didn't see at the time. We can hit this chain twice and then hit this switch, which will activate one of the 2 mechanisms to open the gate outside. This is one... Oh, actually no, that tile there was a red barrier. Never mind. Yeah, that gate to get inside the room was the one that we opened by solving the 2-barrel, 2-switch puzzle. Just to tie everything together. So we can kill these 2 Reaper enemies, just because why not? I really shouldn't be using the Steel Flail, I should be equipping the Holy Sword for any combat scenarios, because it is the most powerful weapon we have access to right now. Now, remaining here on this upper path, this dungeon is pretty straightforward. It's mostly a square, and again, if you're stuck somewhere, there usually aren't too many alternate paths for you to explore, especially if you haven't found a key recently. Yeah, here are the blue barriers. We'll just have to find one more of those switches in order to open them. So yeah, we can't go to pick up those chests, so the only place left for us to go is over here to the west. Not too hard to figure out. I would imagine that if you're doing this blind, it would go relatively smoothly, as long as you didn't get hung up on a puzzle. We'll kill this succubus, so we can open up... we can lower that pillar that leads us downstairs, and again, this dungeon is basically it's symmetric. It follows architectural rules, aesthetics. And again, just like before, we won't go down there yet. We're going to pick up a key first before we head in that direction. Hit the switch over here, so we can lower this other door to get into this room later. Again, if you go there, it'll be pretty obvious that you went in the wrong direction, because you'll be able to see the switch, and you'll know that you have to go back to the upper floor. Now we'll go downstairs. And this should be really familiar. We'll need a key to get in that door below there, and there's a gate that we'll have to lower some other way. You'll notice there's a pillar down here that we can push, and it's got a really obvious switch track, just to signify exactly what direction you're supposed to push it in, and the fact that it's relevant at all. Yeah, there we go. Hit this switch and it will open this gate over there on the left, and yeah, I suspect that is where we're supposed to go. I mean, that is the locked door over there, right? I don't believe we have an active key right now. Now we've got a blue barrier that we cannot pass yet, but we do want to hit that switch so that we can get back to the left later. We're going to be coming through that room from the other direction shortly. I believe actually here, there's a hidden passage into the wall to the left, so you're going to want to kill these 4 Reapers first, and then move this really obviously placed switch out of the way so we can access this door here to the north. And then later, once we've lowered the blue barriers, we're going to want to take that barrel that we saw on the other side of the room where the switch was, and bring it over back to the right side of the room, where again we saw 2 switches here on the north part. Now thankfully that pillar will actually move out of the way automatically if you try to come back here from left to right after you zone. So there's no way to get stuck in this engine. I really appreciate that the game designers remembered to put that in place, otherwise we would have a lot of problems progressing. So yeah, here we pick up the key that we'll need to get into the door, under the stairs, and over here on the left side of the room. Any minute now. Yeah, I did get a little lost a few times. There's actually an entire paragraph in the guide that I'm using as reference to this game that is out of place. It's edited into the wrong order in the guide, so I did get lost a couple of times traveling through this engine while I adjusted for this 1990s era text guide sort of misinformation. So yeah, this should look really familiar. Again, we've got there's no penalty for hitting the blocking statues, so you might as well just keep firing the willow bow until you manage to lower the blue barriers. And now that we've done that, we can go back over here to this side of the room and take this barrel back all the way over to the right side. It's a cool puzzle sequence, I think. We're going to want to move over to the right first, so that we can get this pillar out of the way. And then now that you can see that there are 2 switches here, we're going to want to kill these enemies so they don't hit us and cause us to drop the barrel. And then head back over to the left, pick up the barrel, and put it on one of the 2 switches. Don't get lost. No, not behind the barrels, thank you. I personally like watching this episode in post-commentary. I think it's really cool how all the rooms loop back into each other. I think it's really well designed, all things considered. Having done that, we can open this chest, which gives us one of the last keys that we'll need to complete this first part of the dungeon. And having that, the second, this is the room containing the second gate switch, and it has actually 2 keys, where the first room only had a single key that we were required to access it, plus the barrier. So now we'll head here to the upper part of the floor, the last area that we haven't quite explored yet. This is I believe we're actually going to head over to where... Yeah, over here to this last area that we haven't quite explored yet, the center of the upper area. And we have passed by these 2 chests previously, and one of them contains the last key we need, and the other one contains an herb. That's why I used the other herb here. I guess I noticed in the guide that there were a few herbs that we'd be picking up in chests, and it helps a lot to recover some of the HP that we've lost fighting the Reapers, and especially the Ropers. So now that we've got that, we can go ahead and unlock that second half of the gate mechanic. Let's head over there now. Yeah, there's also... it looks like there's also a blue barrier. But again, we lowered those quite some time ago, so... Yep, there we go. Now we've unlocked the gate, and we can head in to the center of the Lake Shrine, the second half of the dungeon. We've got a long way to go. There's plenty left to do, don't worry. Thankfully, the dungeon also contains a real easy shortcut back to the start. So all you have to do is head up here, and we're going to dive over the edge of a balcony, and back to the opening. So let's see what the inside of the Lake Shrine holds for us on this next and second to last episode of Let's Play Alundra. I'll see you then, I hope you enjoy it. As soon as we get inside, I can tell you, let's pass through this last door, up the stairs to the final balcony, and I'll see you then. Cheers.